on the political willingness to agree and to implement. All of this was focused very largely around the question of a new ESM program, which is being applied for. As you said, there is also the issue of EFSF program extension, so as not to be in technical default today. And I heard nobody disagree with my assessment, which I think follows on the Saturday event, that today at midnight the EFSF program expires, and given what we have heard, not confirmed yet, but has been announced that Greece will be in default to at least two creditors as of today or tomorrow morning. So my presumption, then there were a few other questions asked, which I'm sure colleagues will have related to their ministers. The big question is what is the political situation? What is the
has entered the conference. Bitte warten Sie.
What are the changed circumstances? There is also an issue which a number of colleagues and institutions mentioned, a pure continuation of the old program appears. Hello?
Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah. A pure continuation of the present program in factual terms, obviously not in legal terms, but in factual terms, would also not appear to be appropriate, as the economic situation has changed quite dramatically. Greece will be in default, the banks are closed, and therefore just having more of the same would appear to be economically just not the right answer to this increasingly challenged situation, where also the financial sector is under more stress than it was previously. So that, I would say, is the background to the discussion around the application for an ESM program. Next procedural step would be your answering letter to Prime Minister Tsipras. I think that's all for the moment.
Right. Let me try and make a proposal on the basis of what I now know. And I say that because I've been told that the Greek government is preparing a second letter. Because I don't know what's in it. Maybe I should give Yannis the opportunity, Yannis Varoufakis the opportunity to say something about this. Whether he knows about the second letter, whether that's serious, and what should be in it. Yannis?
Invalid entry.
Yes, can you hear me, Jeroen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. The second letter that we're preparing is an amended version of the SLA proposal, as tabled on the 25th by the institutions. It is a result of discussions with Jean-Claude Juncker, the President of the Economic Commission, and we are submitting this as a firm proposal so that colleagues can take a look at the prior actions that the government of Greece is prepared to undertake.
So that sounds like you will put forward new proposals, amendments to the last proposals by the institutions?
Yes, I have to emphasize that the amendments that we're proposing, compared to the institution's SLA proposal, prior actions list, are quite concise, and they're limited changes. So in a sense, we are very close to the institution's SLA proposal.
Okay, well, it's very hard for us to assess a letter which we don't have. So there are two options. Either we briefly discuss the first letter and take a sort of preliminary stance on that, or we wait for a second letter and have a call later this evening.
I believe that Declan Costello has actually received the letter already from our technical team. Let me just say very briefly that there are some minor changes which represent very fair compromises on the VAT rate that applies to utilities with regard to privatization and the functional separation that is of the electricity provider. The areas that we're covering are pensions and labor markets, and that's about it. But I believe that Declan Costello already has a copy.
You may also want to hold on to the second letter and allow for some reflections from the Eurogroup first.
Sure.
But it's up to make a few remarks on my side, and then I'll open the floor to ministers. First of all, what the talks were stopped untimely fashion by the Greek authorities, and a different plan was proposed to have a referendum with a no advice. My understanding is that this plan is still on the table. In the first letter, there's no reference to stopping the referendum or changing the stance of the government on the referendum.
Well, Jeroen, on this issue, of course, we are going to change the stance of the government if there is progress in today's meeting, especially if the SLA becomes more palatable politically for us, in a way which is consistent, of course, with the institution's logic. It would be possible for us to change our stance and recommend to the people that they vote yes. As I've said repeatedly in the past, also in the press conference after our Saturday meeting.
Right. Colleagues, I think it would be best to wait for this second letter. Otherwise, we're going to have a very useful discussion. The program expires tonight. I don't see practically nor politically how we can change that course of action. And regarding any other proposal for the future, we would have to wait and see that second letter. So my proposal would be to an hour after the second letter has come in. I will distribute it as soon as I have it.
If I may, Sharon.
Yes, well.
Agree on a conference call tomorrow, because we can't stand aside and waiting whether we get a second letter or a third letter, maybe a fourth letter. When this first letter has been announced publicly, we had discussions in our parliamentary groups. My party, our coalition partner, we had a common discussion on the level of the Chancellor and the Vice Chancellor. We agreed that before the referendum, we will not regard any decision first. Second, without IMF involvement, we will not regard any ongoing discussion. And my third remark is, in this letter we got in the meantime from the Prime Minister, the last sentence is a declaration which is absolutely not in line, which has been the precondition, because if Greece is only committed to service its external debt in a manner that secures viability of the Greek economy, growth and social cohesion, that is not Greece is committed to service its external debt fully and timely. What is the precondition for any even starting of thinking about. By the way, the EFSF program will end tonight. If we got it right, the announcement of the Prime Minister is in default on the rules of the IMF. And so we are in the ESM, and as you have mentioned, and that has been mentioned by Thomas Wieser, we strongly recommend to the authorities in Greece to regard in the ESM treaty, especially Article 13. Yeah, but we should agree on another call, not before tomorrow, because it makes no sense. Wait hours and hours whether we get the next level.
Jérôme, Michel Sapin.
Jeroen, Michel Sapin speaking.
Jérôme?
Jeroen?
Go ahead, please, go ahead.
Ok. Je pense que, Jérôme, que ta proposition est la bonne. Nous avons besoin de connaître le texte de la deuxième lettre très en détail parce que tout se joue dans les détails et nous avons besoin aussi de connaître le contexte politique. Qu'est-ce que déciderait le gouvernement grec très précisément s'agissant du référendum? Tant que nous n'avons pas ces deux éléments, je ne vois pas comment nous pouvons continuer à délibérer.
I think your proposal is the right one. We need to know very precisely what's the content of the second letter in detail, and we also need to know what's the political background of this letter. What is the commitment by the Greek government vis-à-vis the referendum?
Mais si ces propositions paraissent réalistes et pouvoir être acceptées par les institutions, qu'il faudra bien à un moment donné consulter, et si le contexte politique lui-même était suffisamment changé, on voit bien qu'il n'y a pas de raison de se priver d'un débat sur ce point et de se priver d'une possibilité de trouver une solution qui soit une solution convenable pour tous.
But if these proposals seem realistic and can be accepted by the institutions, and if the political context has sufficiently changed, then we shouldn't deprive ourselves of the possibility of a debate and the possibility to find a solution.
Donc Jérôme, je soutiens ta position qui consisterait à attendre le texte de la lettre et de bien comprendre le contexte politique pour reprendre nos délibérations.
So Jeroen, I therefore support your position, which is to wait for the letter and to understand the political context to then resume our discussions.
Jeroen, Piercarlo here.
Piercarlo, go ahead.
I also share the view that we should wait for the second letter. If I may offer a suggestion to our Greek colleagues, that second letter should be as detailed as possible in terms of measures and suggested measures changes. Also, I agree with Michel that we should like to understand a bit better what the political context is with respect to the referendum and with respect to what the Greek authorities recommend voters to choose. So I suggest that we wait for the letter and maybe we reconvene tomorrow.
Okay. Anyone else at this point?
Yes, Jerome, Luis de Guindos.
Luis, go ahead.
Well, with respect to the first letter, that is the letter that we have available and that we can make an assessment, I think that the letter requests three things from us. The first one is an ESM program. The second one is an extension of the program. And the third one is the restructuring or reprofiling of the debt. Well, the ESM program, everybody knows that there is a lot of requirements and is time-consuming. With respect to the extension of the program, I think that we rejected an extension of the program last Saturday. I don't know what has been modified from our stance last Saturday. And the third one, the reprofiling, the restructuring of the debt, is something that is extremely delicate, as everybody knows. And I fully agree with Wolfgang that the last sentence of this letter is totally unacceptable. So my point is very clear. I think that this letter has nothing to do with technical aspects. I think that the person who has written, that is the president of the Greek government that has written this letter, knows perfectly that these requests cannot be accepted by us. I think that this is a political letter. It's setting, the political stance of the Greek government with respect to a referendum that theoretically is going to take place this Sunday. So I think that this is the point. With respect to the second letter, I am totally open to discuss, and I hope that we'll be able to discuss it tomorrow. But I think that we should have a clear position with respect to the first letter that I repeat. I think that it's not a technical one, because the things that are included here are totally impossible to accept today, but a political stance that I fully respect, but I think that is not our mission to assess in this moment.
Jeroen, Alex from Finland.
Alex, go ahead.
Very briefly, exactly the same points that were put forward by Wolfgang and then later on by Louise. As far as the first letter is concerned, request number one, ESM, that would take a long time and would probably need extensive conditionality because we're talking about a 2-year extension. Then the extension of EFSF, we rejected that and we continue to reject it. And then a restructuring of the debt, we are not able to discuss that at this particular moment. I agree this is a political letter, not a technical letter, and we can discuss further when we get a second letter, and I would also propose to do that at some stage tomorrow.
Okay, can I just step in? I think, having listened to you, I think so far at least, what you've said is there is no basis in this letter to reconsider our position of last Saturday. That means that the time pressure tonight is gone. Also for practical reasons, I think it's impossible to go back to the question of the extension of the program. It will expire, and any further discussion will have to be, if any further discussion, it will have to be on a new kind of program. Having said that, I think we shall await the second letter to see whether there is different political message in that letter, and I will set up the second meeting tomorrow after we've assessed the second letter.
Jeroen, may I interject for 1 second?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Jeroen. I would like to say that there are two separate issues here. One concerns the letter, the second letter, and the second issue concerns the willingness of colleagues to contemplate the logic of our request. Regarding the letter, let me just yet again say that it has been sent. It is only 1 page long, because the rest of it is exactly as in the Juncker proposal for the SLA. So, Piercarlo, I understand your need to have a detailed account of our proposals, but the essence of what we're saying is pretty much as that of the institution's SLA, and the amendments we are proposing are no more than 1 page, which has already been sent. And regarding our stance on the referendum, as we've said, we are perfectly prepared to change that stance. On the question of the last sentence in the Prime Minister's letter, we are equally prepared to change the wording to being not only fully committed, but also in a timely fashion to service the Greek government's debt and its obligation to its creditors. We are also quite willing to change the wording in a way that complies with the requirements of the Eurogroup. The second issue, which I mentioned right at the beginning, which concerns the logic of our request, that's, I think, the more serious issue. And this is where, from what I've heard, colleagues are either reluctant to have a discussion about it, or they think that this is a difficult juncture at which to settle the issue. And it concerns, for instance, the idea of a new ESM program, of the reprofiling of the debt request, of the extension of the EFSF that Alex, for instance, and others rejected as a notion, and the presence or absence in the new contract of the International Monetary Fund. So I think that given how critical this moment is, and in view of the pressures of time, it would be good to have an opinion separately from the letter, which, as I said, has already been sent. It's a very short letter regarding the SLA, why can't we just imagine that this is not an issue and then center upon the question of whether the 4 points are mentioned, of the logic of what we are proposing for a new program to begin from now, whether they are at all palatable to colleagues. Because if that is not the case, then the second letter is neither here nor there.
Janus, I find it very difficult and rather theoretical to discuss a second letter or an amended first letter or both that I don't know. We have to realize that from practical constraints, legal constraints, and political context, there is no possibility to return to the question we answered Saturday. It's about the extension of the program. The program, unfortunately to say, will expire tonight. Practically, we cannot change that. Legally, it's impossible, given procedures. And politically, the context, as we speak, has not changed. So, I repeat that my proposal will be have a second tomorrow. Take very seriously the letter and any second letter also, but we would have to see it first to be able to have an opinion on it. So you can't really ask an opinion now on the basis of documents that we don't have or that you will amend.
I appreciate that, Jeroen. Can I just ask you a question? Let's imagine that the one page that has already been sent to Declan Costello was in front of everyone, and you could look at it. Would you still be of the opinion that this program needs to expire and we should talk about our request tomorrow?
Yes, because if I understand you correctly, your second letter has new, detailed, changed proposals. The normal procedure would be that you would talk about these with the institutions, try to get an arrangement on the whole thing, then come to the Eurogroup, etc., etc. We don't have the time for that. It's simply impossible. Second point, the political context is that a referendum was called with a negative advice. And so far, I don't believe your government has revoked negative advice.
But we would only do that, of course, and happily do it, if we have an understanding that the logic of our proposal, at least broadly speaking, is in tune with the feelings of colleagues in the Eurogroup. Έπεσε. Τι έγινε, Μιλά στα αγγλικά. Hello. Έκλεισε. Παιδιά δεν είναι. Αυτοί μας κάνουν πλάκα. Καταλάβει. They're joking. Τι κάνουν πλάκα.
You've reached your teleconference. Please enter star, your room. To join the meeting, please enter. Please say your first and last name.
Γιάννης Βαρουφάκης.
You are joining the meeting.
Procedural.
Giannis Varoufakis.
In any case,
Has entered the conference.
in any case, we stand ready to work very intensively and to do all the necessary assessment as quickly as we can and provide them with more information on the next conference call. Actually, Pierre also wanted to add a couple of words.
Yes, just to add that, as Valdis said, Declan Costello received the letter at the very beginning of this meeting, and we had not got the time to analyze it, that we are ready with the other institutions to prepare an analysis and then an assessment for further call that you may reconvene. That we understand that member states are not willing to extend the FSF program, so we have to discuss about something which is new. And in order to get there, we need, I think, two things. First, a clear technical assessment of those proposals, which are different, and second, a very clear political stance from the Greek government on the issue of the referendum. So I think it's careful under those conditions to reconvene another call with the spirit to find a solution, but also with the legal framework that we all know.
Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Valdis. This doesn't change my proposal, but it's very welcome that, of course, the Commission and hopefully also the IMF will be prepared to look at any measures coming in, give us an assessment or a first assessment tomorrow, second call that we may have. That's how I see the situation. That would actually also formally request for financial support to the ESM. The first step is that the Commission, jointly with the ECB, assesses some of the aspects that Thomas Wieser mentioned, and the IMF on debt issues also. So that is also formally a first step in the procedure when a country, a member state, requests for financial support. So we will hear from the institutions tomorrow morning on their assessment. But if I will give the floor once more to ministers if they agree with my proposal that we will have a second call tomorrow morning, realizing of course that the decision Saturday remains unchanged. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. I will let you know as soon as possible what time this call tomorrow morning take place.
Thank you. Thank you. See you, okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Χαλαρά. Πολύ καλά. Πολύ ωραία.
Τι περιμένετε, ρε παιδιά? Υπήρχε πιθανότητα η Κομισιόν να κάνει κάτι σοβαρό. Τελειώσαμε. Πάει αύριο, ναι. Αλλά...